Welcome back to the Angels Modelling and Railways. In this update we have more of the Angels Share Whisky Distillery in 009 narrow gauge, and I'll show you how I've got to this stage in it, and also the fact you've got a panoramic view of the garage and the mess that it's in still. Lots of rubbish here, lots of rubbish there, all needs cleared, as well as all those shelves, everything's going. So stay tuned, we'll do the update on the layout, and thanks for sticking with the long videos. It's a long process I'm going through, and I'm trying to share as much of it as I can with subscribers and viewers to the channel. So thanks again, I'll catch you at the end. I painted up the station hall in cream and blue, which is kind of typical of Highland paint schemes on these sorts of buildings, and I've done the same in a little signal box. I've also worked on the little double-ended shunter. I've sanded down the 3D printed lines, and I've put a piece of styrene on it as well to cover the roof of the 3D printed lines. So I've decided to take the malting room out, that's that building back there, and replace it with the DPM stuff that I have. Excuse me while I scan down here. These 4-in-1 modular kit, industry warehouse, 8 row scale, 187, but it shows you ideas of what you can do utilising the parts within the kit. So not too sure whether I'm going to do a building like that at the edge with a platform where stock can get taken off, go in that doorway there, any other stock getting brought in can get brought in through this door into a loading ramp on the inside. We also have the external loading ramp, or like the kit suggests, maybe bringing the building out so that it actually goes inside a building. Not too sure. I prefer the open aspect and being able to see the externals, and when you're detailing it, it's all open and exposed and not under arches. So yeah, that's the next design change on it. I fancy doing this, constructing this building and having a warehouse and a platform next to that siding. Using the cornicing that came with the kit that's designed for the top of the building, I think it looks a lot better as the base of the platform. So the rock moulds have had a black wash over them, just to start getting some tones into them before I add the other colours. And now we've got the entire surface painted with a brown acrylic paint, basically to get the soil effect on the go underneath. Let that dry, then I'll go over with another coat. I'll do a kind of lighter brown in patches as well, and vary up the kind of tone flavours of the soil before we start putting track down and all the other stuff that we like doing on model railways. So I've got the short straight from in front of the signal box, and basically I'm going to snip 2 sleepers off to expose the rail. And once I expose the rail, then I've got somewhere to solder the wires on. So what I needed to do is get a file out and actually rough up the sides or the bottoms of those rails so that the solder will stick. And you can see it there, all nice and scratched, a keyed surface. So this is me basically, first time in months doing some soldering, using a solder that has a flux in it as well. And that's me just prepping the underside of the rails. by putting a bead of solder on both, then tinning the ends of the wires and preparing them, bending the wire at a 90-degree angle so I can fasten it on the underside of the rail. I thought I'd done that one okay, but it came off right away, so I hadn't put enough solder on it, so a little bit more solder on the iron at a medium to high heat with the solder that has got a flux in it as well. And that's one black to the back, as they say, and that's that wire done, and the same with the red one. Get that ready. Soldering's good fun, especially when it works. If it doesn't, it can be a bit annoying, but I found that I'm more successful than not. So that's the track, got the wires on it, and we're now ready to power up the layout. So I've now marked the position where the holes are going to go, and if I turn that upside down, hurry up the rail heads. So there we go. I've put the holes in roughly where those wires are going to go, and it should match up nicely with this point here. So let's get the holes done, flip the baseboard over, drill the hole in there, let's see if we can get the wires fed through. So to explain how I'll actually do the hole on the reverse side of the baseboard to match up with these, is that I've got something as a square edge against here, and this little short ruler, and what I'll do is I'll measure exactly how far in it is from the edge of the fascia, and I'll relate that on the underside, and obviously how far down it is as well, but I'll run a beaded pencil all the way down the side of this, and then carry that on the underside so that we're in the right location, and then measure in, drill the holes. So I'm using this little crocodile clamp on a little metal piece of wire, stiff straight wire, and pushing that through to the baseboard. I'll probably wiggle it a little bit in order to kind of make the hole a little bit bigger for the wire to go through. But yeah, that's it. I'll do the same in the next one, and then I'll flip the board over and drill the holes in. That's my measurements. So there you can see both pins in the surface of the polystyrene through the plaster bandage. And that's the two there. As you can see, I went and drilled a hole, marking it out that way rather than that way. But no biggie, nobody's going to see it, no one's going to know it's there, only me or everybody that watches this video. But yeah, there's the two of them through, so I just need to feed the wires through. As I said, I've got holes here to feed the wires through, and then on the underside I've got holes, so I just need to make one of them through into the fascia so I can feed the wires through for the controller. A little bit of a fiddle, but that's the wires fed through the polystyrene surface and through the holes on the underside. So let's pull the track down, feed the wires through, and get ready to kind of set up the track and see if it all works in both directions. We'll learn as we go. So that's it wired into a connector. So we get the track feed, and then it's just going into the controller, which is coming through the fascia. We've got that for the little back of the controller as for our test subject. So let's flip this back over and wire up the rest of the, plug in the rest of the track as it were, get it all hooked up and see if we can get running on all sidings. That's all the track laid in position with the straight piece now wired up. So let's move to stage 2, maybe stick some buildings on for effect, and then get the controller hooked up and get some stock running and do some test running, see how it works. So here is the inaugural test run. We'll see which way the direction works. If we've actually got the polarity right on those wires, something I can always change round. Doesn't matter just now, purely for the sake of testing. So we have two locomotives. We have the Baldwin 1012D and the little Gronk, the Class 08. I've set the points so that the Baldwin number 542 we'll travel down here, pick up these coaches at the station, and then travel back over the bridge. So let's see if all the chat has been worth it and it actually does what it's supposed to. So let's apply some power. A little bit stuttery. But it's made it to the coaches and travelling in the correct direction as well, so the polarity works. Let's get them hooked up. That'll do the ticket. Got that incline fine. Still all to get pinned down, held in place. Using the points for their insulating powers because they're insulated frogs. Filming with one hand and trying to couple and uncouple with one hand isn't very easy. I do like the idea of this being a black and white warehouse. The stock can go up a ramp inside there on a loading platform, and then another loading platform where trucks can go in, and vice versa, they can swap loads. So yeah, see how that goes, but onward. Let's move that into there. Oh, you dead point. Track needs a good clean as well. It's been off and on and off and on. It's been lying about while work's been done on the layout, so it's probably a little bit dusty and dirty. Will run a lot better once it's cleaned. But there we go, running into the 3 sidings, working a treat. So I'll take it off, I'll put it back in there, and we'll bring the little shunter out and check that. Basically running into one of the sidings. It's only that point that we need to check that's running properly. So let's unhook this. So the Angel Share narrow gauge railway, slowly but surely coming together. Let's get my terrible shunter. Keep forgetting to do the points. So let's change this one, and we should bring to life a little Gronk. There she blows. So, as I said, power feed in the middle is feeding both branches. And it means that we can work off 2 locomotives going in and out, doing a little bit of shunting, as well as a passenger locomotive running in and out, and having 3 running pieces of stock on the layout at the same time. So yeah, should make things interesting. I'm not going to be doing it for exhibits or anything like that. This is just purely for me to have some fun shunting and using up to 3 locomotives in one go. I saw this picture online and I like this colour of rust on the rails. So that's the track lifted off the layout and taken inside to get painted. But I will come out and paint this piece and keep it in place. And I'll paint the sleepers as well. And this is movable, this isn't fixed yet, so I can get that matching the rest of the pieces. So I've brought all the track inside onto my modelling desk, and that's all the sleepers and the track's going to get painted. Do that in here. I've already been doing the fencing. That's that French blue I've been using, just quite nice. The darker blue fence is because I have a brown fence that I'm painting blue, so that didn't work out too well with the darker tone underneath it, so I might paint this grey and then put the blue over it, and we'll use that one where it's maybe not so obvious that it's a different colour. I won't use it next to the other one. So yeah, let's go on with painting the track. So I'm going to keep the track in sections with the point, and obviously these sidings on it, that's kind of one long straight piece of track. These two parts and these, I also have other parts kept to the side there, so I'm not going to paint each individual piece, I'm going to paint them as part stretches, which will make it easier and quicker. I'm using this which is a light rust, so I'm using medium rust, so I'll be using that. I'll insert a picture of why I'm using that and I'll see how that goes, but I reckon the track would be rusty, being in the Scottish Highlands over a loch, next to a loch, the track's going to look quite rusty, so let's crack on. I won't show you every stage of me painting it, I'll just paint a section and show you and carry on until it's all done. So that's the track, predominantly painted with the medium rust to make it look a bit older. Now to do the sleepers. I used the concrete grey on these sleepers as well, just gave them a dry brush all over. I've also painted some lighter brown patches on the surface of the plaster cloth, so when I come to do soil and dirt and stuff like that, you probably won't see any of that, but if you do and any of it's exposed, at least there's different tones on it, so I think it looks alright. So time to paint up the wired piece of track. Got the rust on the rails and the grey on the sleepers, so we'll carry on. So on the sides of the rails I used a rust colour, which is darker than the medium rust. Gave it a little wash. Also done the sleepers, some of them with a sleeper grime and some of them with an earth brown to vary up the tones of it. I think it looks great. I've now buffed all the track with a Pico track rubber to take the paint off the head of the rails, and I'm now piecing it together, so this section will speed up. I forgot to use the track rubber on that straight piece that the wires are on, so I need to give that a little clean. This is the reason you run test runs. That point is causing issues with conductivity, so what I'm going to have to do is give it a little clean on the inside of the rail and the inside of the point blade in order to help the circuit keep running through that point once the blades are flicked over to that side. The warehouse is 3 panels wide and 3 panels deep and works at a 90-degree angle. I've drawn it on the baseboard and I'll make it up to fit that area. I'll put it on a base of some form, and I think it looks quite good with the other Angel Share buildings. I'll keep the Metcalf buildings because they look perfect for the job. I've been working on the crane on this kind of large metal beam in the support that will go over the 2 tracks. So I'd like it up about here. It will be on a platform which will be high, but I might have to add something to the feet on top of this in order to give it that little bit of extra elevation, so that I can have this bar running through there. I'll cut a hole in that. There is a doorway that actually goes with it. It's a little bit undersized, but that metal beam goes in there, and this is supposed to poke through that hole, but that opening's too big for those doors. So I don't know if I maybe fill in the door frame round there, maybe put some card round it to pull it in to frame this and put that in there. Actually, I think I will do that. I'm going to take that door out, put a frame in, and put that door in so that I can attach the frame properly. So it basically does that, goes through there, it looks cool. So yeah, we'll carry on with the build and share each little stages now and then. For the crane to fit over both tracks, I'm maybe going to have to put an extension on the end of it here and into that slot, because ideally it would sit there. You can see it's away from the building, and also it needs raised up, so it needs supports that go through the decking into the ground, well suggested on the end of this. So yeah, these are little solutions when you're coming to do a little kind of scratch build, kit bash as it were. That's what we're looking to do. You can see how I've put that door in that doorway now, and I'll do my best to seal up round about here with some paint, fill in those gaps and make it look a little bit more realistic. But I reckon it'll make a nice feature at the end of the track there, having the crane with the chain. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I made the platform 15mm high using brick sheet paper to make the brick base as it were for it. So this is in place, and basically it needs to get raised up and extended. So I used 3 pieces of styrene glued together to do an I-beam to do the extension on that arm, and you can see the 3 pieces there, as well as a couple of strips of wood on the front of the brick platform base. So with the concrete lintel in place and the extension added to the crane, you can see that it fits perfectly now over the 2 tracks and the right height. I think it looks like a great feature, and once painted up you can't tell that it's actually 2 pieces put together. That's the crane done, painted, weathered, a little bit of dark rust on it, concrete plinth, another concrete base that would go through that wooden floor as it were. The wooden floor's kind of been built round that, that's the idea of it. Still to all be glued down, but the idea is a concrete support in order to give this the elevation. That's the chains on, the hook on, little controls. Got the stairs on at either end. Painted white with some moss and some dark grey wash on it. So that's the base of the crane now glued in place. As I said, it's a concrete pillar that actually goes into the ground, into that kind of concrete base where the bricks are round, and then there's the wooden platform built round about it. That's the crane in place. An idea of how stock can be removed from there and taken to the first or second floor. I've also got the station fencing in. That's LMS fencing painted blue to make it all look touristy. Also started painting up the warehouse building. Still a lot more to go on this, But I want to get this part done in order to get an idea of how it would look. And to be honest, I like the look of it. I think it's going to make a striking view, and also it'll be a flat roof building, I reckon, rather than a peaked building. So I'll have details to put on top of that as well. So yeah, slowly but surely, this fictional whisky distillery narrow gauge layout is coming together. Move along and look at the rock faces that we've also got done. It's basically going to go in there. We got some other ones to go in. That one's probably going to go over there in that corner. Got the fibre mould basically still setting. I need to wait till that's dry before I can get it all painted up. Waiting for my bridge to come so I can see how that'll fit in there before I start finishing off this area scenery wise, and the landforms that will fit into the bridge support structure. Yeah, I'm very happy with how this is coming together on a whim, but it's looking good. I do like that crane. So I brought the warehouse back onto the workbench. I like the look of the black and the white. That's the platform there. Platform will probably be extended to about here to catch this doorway. There'll be a little bit of steps onto the platform. A loading ramp here, still to put the surface on it. But out of the Kibri kit, which comes, as you can see on the side of the box, there's 3 cranes that come with it. I've built this crane, which I think you agree looks quite smart. It'll be ideal on that platform so that we can lift stock off the wagons and put it on the platform for that loading ramp, goods entrance. So still to finish off the building, more painting to do, more construction to do, pilasters to do, platform to finish, the base to put in, the roof to put on, and kit bash this together slowly but surely. First time doing a DPM kit, so we'll see how we go. But so far, thoroughly enjoying it. Make a nice feature on the layout, as I said. Wrapping up part 2 of this update, I have progressed with the warehouse, dry fitted doors and pilasters, etc., and we'll carry on in part 3 and share the next parts of the warehouse build. Thanks again for tuning in, liking and subscribing, and in the next update I will show you the bridge and the engine shed that's arrived. Take care, see you in the next one.